where you live. They feed on your flaws. They drain your time. And they never leave you alone.
Hey, I need to run a few errands. Can you watch my dog? Again.
I tried to hold it as long as I could, but it didn't quite work out. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to church. My name is John, and if you're wondering what in the world is going on, I ask myself that question every Sunday when I come. No, it's so great. We love having fun here at The Rock. It's actually one of our values here. We take fun super seriously, so if you're joining us for the first time, we hope you just can have a laugh with us once in a while. You saw by Ian Foote on Church News that someone just asked if I should do that whole preach this morning in that accent. But I cannot do that, unfortunately, because it took many takes to make that happen. But hey, we are starting a brand new series here today called Relational Vampires, and I'm so excited about this because who knows that God says in the Bible that we're meant to love the people around us, but some people in this world may be a little bit harder to love than others. So that's why we called it Relational Vampires, because what do vampires do? They suck the blood out of us, and relational vampires, well, maybe they suck the life out of us sometimes as well. So we're going to be jumping into a fun topic here starting this weekend. But hey, come back next time as well because Sid and Pastor Daniel are going to be continuing this series, and I've been told they're going to be wearing some fangs and some capes. No? And that's not happening. Well, Pastor D's not here, so he will be wearing fangs, and he will be having a cape on for all those times he has insulted my beautiful Corolla from stage. So keep it a note, everyone, that Pastor D next week will have fangs and capes. Awesome. No, I'm so excited about this because this is something that we're going to be taking 4 weeks on, talking about the people in our life that maybe we feel like sometimes drain the life out of us. But how do we love these people? And what do we do in this world in order to make ourselves in a space where we can live with them and live compatibly and really just love them the way that God has asked us to do? Let's open with a word of prayer, shall we? Heavenly Father, thank you so much, Lord, that we can come into this place and just hear a word from you, God. Thank you, Lord, in the ways that you're already working in our lives, behind the scenes and right in this moment. And Lord, we declare that we are open to what you have to say to us, and we're just so excited for what's to come. So we pray this all in your mighty name. Amen. Amen. So the relational vampire I'm going to be speaking on here this morning is that of control. How do we love people who are controlling? How do we love controlling people in our life? Because we know that actually this can be a really tough thing that we face on a regular basis. Before we jump in, I just want to take a quick poll of the room, and I would love everyone's participation if you wouldn't mind. Can you please raise your hand if you know someone who might be a little bit of a control freak? If you know someone who is a little bit of a control freak. It's about a third to half of the people in this room know someone, and I think the other half has been their shoulders being torn down by the person beside them. It's maybe a bit of a hint that you're sitting beside someone that might be a little bit of a control freak. I know we laugh about it, and it's fun to joke around about it, but the truth is, and the reality is that all of us have probably been hurt by someone who has tried to control us at one time or another. And maybe you have a controlling relationship with a spouse or a really close friend, or maybe someone in here has a controlling relationship with a boss or an employee, or maybe you here and you have a mother-in-law or a parent who just loves to tell you their opinion and enforce that opinion upon you here today, and you're in a place where you just don't know what to do next. And can I just tell you that oftentimes, and most of the times, these controlling people don't have a malicious intent. Oftentimes, they're just maybe a bit needy, or they're coming from a place of being a bit self-conscious. But so many times when these people can seem like they're draining our life, can be draining the exact life that we have. The thing is, when they don't get their way, it feels like an emotional black hole. It feels like no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter how often we actually listen to them and we try to perform our best, that it's just a relational vampire black hole, and it just seems like it's never, ever good enough. And when they don't get their way, these controlling people stomp their feet, they shake their fists, they raise their voice, they may give you the silent treatment, they may talk behind your back, but all of the time, it feels like you're walking on eggshells. And that's what we're going to be talking about here today. How can we love these people? How can we love the people around us who are controlling? How do we love the people that God has placed in our lives who we feel like drain the life out of us? You know, I was doing some research for this morning, and I came across this really interesting article. It's actually from Kindle, and Kindle has this list of the top 100 pieces of literature and the most highlighted pieces of literature in all of Kindle. And can you believe that the number one most highlighted piece of literature in all of Kindle comes from Catching Fire, and it says this: sometimes things happen to people and they're not equipped to deal with them. Sometimes things happen to us and we don't feel like we're equipped to deal with those things. Now, if this isn't a cry for help, I don't know what is. And maybe this is you here this morning. This is you in your exact situation here today, that you have people in your lives, you have family members or friends, and you feel like they're controlling you, but you don't know what to do. You don't feel like you're equipped on how to deal with them. But can I just let you know that I believe that you're here this morning for a reason. I believe that God has made it an opportunity for you to come into church today because I believe that God has a word for you here today. And I believe that we have a God who sees you, understands you, and knows your every thought, knows your every condition, and loves you so much he doesn't want to leave you that way, and therefore he equips us. We have a God who just loves to equip us so that we can be the best versions of ourselves. So that's my prayer here this morning, that we can leave this place feeling equipped and ready to love every single person around us, no matter who they are or what they do. You know, I believe one of the main reasons why we aren't able to love these controlling people around us is because we're really not feeling equipped. We don't understand them. We don't know where they're coming from. It's really hard for us to relate to them. So we get out our pitchforks and our garlic in defense when actually we should start building an understanding with them. Instead of building a wall, we should start building a bridge to make that connection of understanding so that we can learn to love them. I want to share a quick story, and for those who don't know me, I was born and raised in Canada, and yes, I say it like every single week, but I was born and raised, someone's like, stop it. I was born and raised in Canada, and growing up, I had this beautiful, beautiful dog. She was a yellow lab. Her name was Jasmine, and she was a big geel. She was like 45 kilograms of love, and she was not the most agile dog, I would say, but she was lovely. And we would take her as a family. We would take her for walks every single weekend. But Jasmine kind of lacked in the self-control department. And so whenever there was like a furry face or like a squirrel that would pop up, like instantly she just like lost all consciousness and just went after that animal. And so she was 45 kilograms. And so she was never successful in those endeavors, but she continued to try nonetheless. I was about 8 years old, and one weekend we were taking Jasmine for a walk, and I was like, hey, Mom and Dad, I want to take the lead on Jasmine. I want to hold the leash for once. You know, I haven't had a chance to hold the leash before, and I think it's the time for me. I'm old enough. I'm 8. I can hold Jasmine. She's like heavier than me at the time. And I was like, can I please try? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? And so they gave me the leash, and we're walking down the street, and all of a sudden, we see this little brown face pop up from the snow, and it's a squirrel. And Jasmine's ears perk up. And all of a sudden, she darts off, and I'm holding on to the leash. I refuse to let go. I'm being dragged in the snow. Snow's getting down my jacket. I'm twisting and turning, and everyone's screaming at me, John, let go of the lead. And I'm like, no, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it. I'm in control. Clearly not in control. The point of my story is that I have a tendency to be a little bit of a control freak. I can relate to this so much because I get what it feels like to be in control, and I get what it feels like to not be in control. And so the point of my story is that every single person in this world who is controlling, every single person who is a control freak, who is a controlling person, has one thing in common. And that one thing that every controlling person has in common is this: they have someone who allows it. Every single controlling person in the world has something in common, and it's that they have someone who allows it. What I want to do today is jump in a fairly kind of known piece of literature, and it's a story written by another guy by the name of John. And he recounts the life of Jesus from kind of birth till death. And it kind of was someone who journeyed alongside of Jesus. And so we hear his version of the life of Jesus Christ. And so I just want to let you know that if you are here maybe for the very first time to the Rocks, or maybe you're new, you've only been here for a couple weeks, we're just so excited that you are joining us. And we just pray that you can find a place to belong here at the Rocks. But if you are a Christian, if you've been coming since you were born, if you've been here for ages, maybe you've just been coming for a couple of years, wherever you're at on your faith journey, can I just stress the importance of this next story? Because I believe that God has a word for us. And yes, it frames really nicely what it means to love the people who are controlling around us. But also, I want to stress that maybe a chance for us to look in the mirror a little bit and see that maybe we are those controlling people and what that means for us on the other side of the river as well. So let's pray. Let's just look at these first 15 verses or so. We're gonna jump into John chapter 5, and this story is titled "The Healing at the Pool," and it talks about this man who has been kind of controlled by something his entire life, and then he's been controlled by this thing up until he meets Jesus, up until he meets the person of Jesus. So I would love if we can just read along for the first 14 to 15 verses or so. John chapter 5, it says, "Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, which also means house of mercy, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. Now when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked this man, 'Do you want to get well? Do you want to get well? Do you want to be healed?' Now, how many of us know that in this situation, Jesus isn't being sarcastic, he's not being rude, he's not being malicious. Jesus sees our every condition, sees our heart, and sees every thought in our mind. So he's not being condescending, he's not being mean. He's genuinely asking this person from a place of love, do you want to get better? Do you want to be healed? And he responds, 'Sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me.' Now, what I find so interesting is that Jesus doesn't even take the time to consider this statement. You know, this is a bit of a, we could say, an excuse or kind of what situation he's in. He's not connected enough, he's not strong enough, he's not fast enough to get in the pool. But Jesus doesn't even take the time to consider that. And I find this really interesting. You know, Jesus doesn't even say, you know what, I can imagine how hard that would have been. You know, I can just imagine for 38 years you've been paralyzed, how challenging, how many conversations you must have had. I just feel, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that. Jesus doesn't say any of that. Instead, Jesus says this, 'Get up, pick up your mat, and walk.' At once, the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked." Now, I want to point out a few observations that I think are really interesting and really important for us when we're kind of talking about controlling people in our lives. And I think be really applicable to every single one of us here today. Well, let's start with the very interesting, the very challenging, the very difficult, and very awkward question that Jesus asks this man. Do you want to be healed? Now, we have to understand that this man has been there for 38 years lying on his mat. And at this time, Jesus would have been around 33 years in his ministry. And he was there, a 33-year-old, talking to someone older than him and saying, "Hey, man, do you want to get healed?" I can only imagine that this man in his mind would have thought, you know what, young man, I have been sitting on this mat longer than you've been alive. And you want to ask me, do I want to be healed? How dare you ask me if this is something that I want? And yet Jesus still asks this question, do you want to be healed? Now, we have to understand that Jesus is fully God and fully man. And it says in the scripture that he is acquainted with our weaknesses. He knows our shortcomings and he is familiar with our every condition. And so Jesus isn't coming from a place of looking down on him and a place of condescension. Jesus is seeing him for who he is. Jesus is seeing his heart. And so when we see that Jesus is asking, do you want to get better? Do you want to get well? I believe that Jesus is not only asking that question to him, but he's asking a different question to him and to the readers. He's actually asking, do you want to let go of the emotional connection you have made with your pain? Do you want to let go of the emotional connection that you have made with your pain? Do you want to let that go? Because Jesus understands that it's not always easy to let that go. Jesus understands that sometimes we're not ready to let go of that pain, that emotional connection we have with that pain. Jesus might be talking about physical paralysis, but he's also talking about an emotional paralysis. But we assume that Jesus only sees this man's physical paralysis because that's what we see. That's what we see, and that's what we read as readers. We see this man has been defined as someone who's physically paralyzed, but Jesus sees beyond that. He sees this man's heart. He sees this man's paralysis of the heart, not just the physical. Jesus is addressing the emotional connection that this man has had with this pain, and he's saying, you've had this connection for far too long. Are you ready to get well? Are you ready to move past this? Because you know what? It would have been really easy for this man who's been paralyzed for 38 years. I can only imagine the amount of conversations he's had, the amount of people who have told him, you will never amount to anything. You will never be anything more than someone who's just lying here at this pool. You will never be able to have people who love you. You'll never have people who surround you. You will never amount to anything. You are not good enough. But the fact is that Jesus provides hope for this man. And Jesus provides hope for every single one of us. And he doesn't need to be part of your identity to listen to the voices of the controlling people around us. We don't have to listen to those voices any longer. And Jesus is asking, are you ready to get well? Do you want to get well? And I can suspect that there are people here this morning who are on a similar journey. And maybe you've been told your whole life that you're not good enough. Maybe there are people, controlling people around you who said, you will never get that promotion. You will never be smart enough. You'll never be good looking enough for whatever you're doing. But can I just tell you that we don't have to listen to those voices anymore? That we don't have to let that pain, the emotional connection we have with that pain, control our life. And that's why it shouldn't surprise us. That's exactly what this man responds with when Jesus asks, do you want to get well? Because so many of us are going through this similar situation. And this man's response is oftentimes our response as well. When he says, sir, I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. Yes, I'm paralyzed, but I have no friends. I'm not connected. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. And we've been told that we have to live by this worldview that is defined by self-sufficiency, that is defined by being the master of our own future, that is defined by being in control of our destiny. But when in reality, this is not the way that Jesus deals with us. Because you have to remember that in this moment, this paralyzed man is lying in Bethesda. And Bethesda means house of mercy. And God deals with us in terms of grace and of mercy. We don't get what we deserve. That's exactly what grace is, getting what you don't deserve. God sent his only son down to die on a cross for our sins, not because we deserve it, but because he loves us so much. And God operates in that scheme, in that realm all the time with us. He loves us so much that we don't get what we deserve. And so when we're lying in the house of mercy, when we're lying in a place when we feel paralyzed, that's the time when God comes through. That's the time when we can rely on him for hope. That's the time when we can break free from the bondage and the shame and the guilt and the paralysis of our heart. That's the time that Jesus' love is most evident in our situation. We have to stop allowing ourselves to be controlled by the people around us. Because if we do, because at the moment, the snapshot of our life, where we are in this exact moment, the reason why you are sitting in this chair right now, today, here, is because your life is an exact representation of what you have accepted and what you have allowed. Your life is an exact combination of what you have created and what you have allowed. You are here today because of the things and the conversations that you have allowed people to tell over you, but also the way that you have created your own destiny here today as well. This paralyzed man could have easily just not listened to Jesus. You know how easy it would have been for this paralyzed man just to ignore the words of Jesus, because Jesus doesn't even introduce himself at this point. The paralyzed man doesn't even know that Jesus is Jesus. It's just a random man on the side that says, hey man, do you want to get better? And it would have been so easy for the paralyzed man just to be like, hey, well, yeah, I do, but can you just kind of go on? Like, I've been here for 38 years. My condition's not going to change. But this paralyzed man decided that he was going to try something different. He was going to try to get up from his mat. Now, just imagine how hard that would have been for him to even try to do, how maybe embarrassing or awkward it would have been if he failed at trying to get up. But he decided that he was going to take this step of faith, this leap of faith, and get up and pick up his mat and walk. See, the thing is, God has planned us and has given us an abundant life. But the thing is, we have to understand that that abundant life can be muted and silenced by the people around us. So often we can let those voices distract us from what God's voice is really telling us, and can distract us from finding our true purpose in this world. So my question to you here today is the same as Jesus' question to the paralyzed man. Do you want to get well? Do you want to get better? Are you ready to let go of maybe a past identity and in the hopes of maybe finding a new identity in something different? Are you ready to let go of something that you've been holding on to, maybe since the day you were born? Maybe since you were a young kid, you've been told that you aren't good enough. Are you ready to let go of the emotional connection of that? Are you ready to get up, to pick up your mat and walk? Now, I don't know what your mat is here today. I don't know what the symbolism of what your mat represents here today. But for this paralyzed man, his mat represented his comfort. His mat represented the thing that he slept on every single night. His mat was the only reliable thing that kept him warm day in to day out. But even Jesus said, it's time to pick up that mat and walk. And so for you today, maybe you've been having an emotional connection with that pain. It's that thing that keeps you warm at night. It's a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are. When people see you, they see your pain. When they see the pain, they see you. But it's time to get up. It's time to pick up your mat, and it's time to walk, because Jesus is providing a hope for you, a future for you that is better and bigger than you can imagine or you can dream. The miracle is on the other side of that obedience. But all you have to do is get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Because the thing is, when we ask ourselves, how can we deal with controlling people? Well, the reality is we need to change what we accept, and we need to change what we expect. We need to change what we expect and change what we accept. Start expecting God to move on your behalf, and stop accepting the lies that you've been told since you were a kid. Start expecting God to provide that miracle when you ask for it, and stop accepting that you are second best. Start accepting the truth and the promises that God has said over your life, and stop accepting anything other than that. The truth is that God has more for you, more in store for you, but it's up to you to pick up your mat and walk. Get up out of your situation. You know, what's really interesting about this interaction between Jesus and this paralyzed man is that this all happens before Jesus introduced himself. I already mentioned this, but I want to reemphasize this. This all happens, but I'll say pre-Jesus. You know, Jesus comes up to this man, notices that he's in some trouble, and says, hey man, do you want to get better? And so that just gives me some encouragement. Wherever you are in your faith here today, you don't even have to have a faith. You don't even have to know who Jesus is. But Jesus is the type of God who sees you, understands you, and is already working in your background. You don't have to know his name. You don't have to sign any documents. You don't have to perform in any way. Jesus loves you so much that he cares more about who you are than what you do. So no matter who you are, maybe your first time in church here today, can I just tell you that Jesus is already working in the behind the scenes, whether you maybe even recognize it or not. But can I just say that this is a really crucial time in the story, and it's actually my favorite part of the story, because we see just how loving and gracious our God is. We're going to move on to the point of this story when Jesus finally does reveal himself to this man, and something powerful really happens. It happens in John 5, verse 14. It says, later Jesus found him at the temple. And I'm going to tell you why I find this so interesting. Why would this man be in the temple? You know, we realize that, he's been paralyzed for 38 years, and he's just been healed from this miraculous encounter he had with a mystery man. But he realizes that there's more to life than the things maybe he was dreaming about for the past 38 years. Maybe the life that he was missing out. He realized that actually wasn't the solution. He wanted to find this man. And the only way he was going to find this man was to go to the holiest place he could think of, which at the time was the temple. Because only a holy man would be able to perform such an amazing feat. And so he went to the temple in order to find God. He didn't know at the time, but he was looking at the temple to find God. But that's not actually what happened. He didn't find God at the temple. What does the verse say? It says, later, Jesus found him at the temple. Jesus found him at the temple. You know, as Christians, so often we find this burden responsibility that we have to do something in order to connect with God. We some sort of have to perform, we have to serve, we have to give, we have to do all these things in order to connect with God. And yes, those things are important. But actually what's more important is being available to hear God's voice. And that's exactly what this man did. He was available to hear the voice of God. You know, he was available at the temple. He went to the place of worship. Maybe for you that's church. Maybe for you that's just in the silence of your own room. But Jesus is saying that we are meant to be available, and that's when he will find us. We don't have to perform. We don't have to do anything to earn God's love. He will find us in his own timing. We are not in control. No matter how much there is an illusion that this man found Jesus at the temple, in fact, Jesus found him. And that's the same story for you and for me. I love what it says in Matthew. It says, if you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. You know how easy it would have been for this man to cling to his newfound life. But if he did that, he would have lost that life that he just received. But in coming in submission and trying to find a greater purpose, willing to lose his life, he was able to find not just himself, he was able to find Jesus as well. And I love the Message version that says, if your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. We don't need God to draw near to us. He's already at work behind the scenes, but we need to make ourselves available to him. And the truth is, once you follow Jesus, in actuality, you'll never be in control ever again. Once you follow Jesus, you will never be in control again. That can be a little scary, but actually, this can bring a lot of peace as well. This can bring a lot of security, knowing that actually we don't have to worry about every single detail that comes our way. We don't have to worry about the wind and the waves. All we have to worry about is what Jesus calls us into. It's not about our will to be done. It's about his will be done. It's not about our agenda. It's about what we can do to bless, glorify, and honor his name. And that just takes the pressure off having to control the people around us or even feel the burden of listening to the people who are trying to control us. So how do you love controlling people? Well, first, we need to build a bridge of understanding, and a bridge that comes to a place where we know our identity and that we know actually the voices that are clouding our judgment will either lead to a place of abundance or not. And once we realize that those controlling people can no longer have any kind of control over our lives anymore, when we realize that we don't have to hold on to the emotional connection we have with our pain, we can ask ourselves whether or not we're really truly to move on and get well. And we can answer that question that Jesus asks, are you ready to get well? Are you ready to move on? Are you ready to get better? And we no longer allow people to control us, but we allow God to be in control. We allow God to take the driver's seat. We allow God to set the direction, to set the GPS, and to set our path. And when we do so, we can become more available to hearing God's work. We can come and be available at the temple. And I don't know if you're here today and you've been in church your entire life, but can I just challenge you that this is an opportunity for us to be in the temple here this morning. This is a chance for us to become available to hear God's word. And maybe you're in a place where there's so much noise distracting you. Can I just tell you that there's an opportunity here today to become and make yourself available to hear God's word, to hear God's voice, and to hear what he has to say to you and not allow any more of those voices who are trying to control you dictate who your identity is any longer. So what I would love us for all to do now is just to rise to our feet. And we're going to sing a song together. And the song is one we already sang this morning. It talks about God and talks about being in control. But as we prepare ourselves to just sing this song, my hope and my prayer is that you're able to answer that question, are you ready to get well? Because if the answer is yes, and I believe that it is for a lot of us here today, not yes, but just yes, I am ready to get well. And if that's us here today, my prayer is that as we have just stood up, it'll also mark a symbolism of Jesus' words that says, get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Because I believe that Jesus' miracle is just on the other side of our obedience. So let's sing together.
From heaven you can hear, I know you're drawing near as I worship. Held within your love, the winds and waves will come, but I will stay here. You guide my every step. Speak life to me again. Lord, I need you. I need you. Lift my hands to heaven. Hear my heart surrendered. I tell my soul again, you are Lord of all. And though the seas are raging, you will speak and save them. And you I find my rest. You are in control. Oh, I lift my hands to heaven. Hear my heart surrendered. I tell my soul again, you are Lord of all. And though the seas are raging, you will speak and save them. And you I find my rest. You are in control. You're in control. You've got my world right inside your hands, God. Oh, I will trust in only you. No one can add to your perfection. You're the beginning and the end, more than I can comprehend. There is no one like you, no one. Oh, I will trust in only you. No one can add to your perfection. You're the beginning and the end, more than I can comprehend. There is no one like you, no one. Oh, I will trust in only you. No one can add to your perfection. You're the beginning and the end, more than I can comprehend. Oh, there is no one like you, no one. Oh, I will trust in only you. No one can add to your perfection. You're the beginning and the end, more than I can comprehend. There is no one like you, Jesus. Lift my hands to heaven, hear my heart surrendered. I tell my soul again, you are Lord of all. And though the seas are raging, you will speak and save them. And you will find my rest. You are in control. I lift my hands to heaven, hear my heart surrendered. I tell my soul again, you are Lord of all. And though the seas are raging, you will speak and save them. And you will find my rest. You are in control. And you will find my rest. You are in control. And you will find my rest. You are in control.
When we give up the driver's seat of our lives, when we allow God to step in and take charge, when we allow God to be in control of all the details of our lives, and perhaps there are some of you this morning, as John was talking, you remember the details of your life that perhaps you're anxious about or worried about, the details of your life that you try to control, that you try to take charge of. But here's the thing, when you allow God to take control, you can be sure, you can have great confidence, you can have great trust that when God is in control, that He will work every single detail of your life together for your good. It's what He promises us in His word, that He works all things together for their good, for those who will love Him, who are called according to His purpose. And that's you, and that's you, and that's you, and that's all of us here this morning. Can we thank Pastor John for an incredible message this morning? Yeah. I know that so many of us will continue to be blessed, not just today, but as we go about our lives this week. And remember that you can catch up with that message on our podcast, and maybe you want to listen to it again this week, or maybe you want to get together with your small group and re-listen to the message and think about the relationships that we have in our lives, and indeed the relationship that we have with ourselves and also our Father in heaven. And maybe, something stirred in you this morning and you want to talk that through with someone. Well, we've got some amazing prayer leaders who'll just be up at the front here, and they'd love to chat to you and talk to you and pray with you about anything. So do come forward and find them at the end of our gathering. Well, right now, we have come to the end of our gathering, but it's a custom in our church to leave this place with a prayer of blessing. So if you have faith to receive a blessing this morning, and if you're comfortable to do so, why don't you lift your hands and we're going to pray together. Father, we thank you, God, that you are a faithful God, that you are a good God, that we can surrender and relinquish control of our lives because we know, Father, that you are working all things together for our good. So, Father, over all the details that we're nervous about, over all the details that we're anxious about, Father, over all those voices that come into our heads and tell us things that are contrary to what your word tells us, God, would you silence those voices so that your voice could rise above it all, Father, that we will put our identity and our trust in the security of who we know you are, Father God. And I just want to pray for your blessing over every single person here gathered under the sound of my voice and online, Father. As we come to you as your sons and daughters this morning, I want to command the highest blessing of God, the pressed down, shaken together, overflowing blessing of God over our relationships, over our families, over our marriages, over our finances, over our health, over our neighborhood, over our workplaces, over our colleges and our schools. Wherever we go, Father, may we take your presence with us, and may we be the light that Jesus came to shine in this world, both today and until Jesus comes again. And everyone who believed that said, Amen. Amen. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We hope you have a great Sunday. God bless you.